title of this story is Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, a little girl lived with her mother and brother in a small cottage by the edge of a forest. Her favorite piece of clothing was a long red cape with a soft silky hood. She wore it so often that soon everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, Little Red Riding Hood was bored and looking for something to do. "You could sweep the floors," said her mother, who was busy painting the fence. "No," said Little Red Riding Hood. "I don't think that's what I want to do." "You could help clean the yard," said her brother, who was busy chopping wood. "No," said Little Red Riding Hood. "I know that isn't what I want to do." "Then you could visit your grandmother," said her mother. "You're old enough to go by yourself, and you haven't seen her for weeks." "That's exactly what I want to do," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Grandmother lives on the other side of the woods. It will be an adventure." So Little Red Riding Hood's mother packed a basket full of treats for the girl to take to her grandmother. "Just remember," said her mother, "the woods can be very dangerous. So, when you leave, please go straight to grandmother's, and don't be late." "She won't listen," said her brother. "Yes, I will," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Of course she will," said her mother. "Oh, and dear, something else before you go. Only talk to those you know." "She won't listen," said her brother. "Yes, I will," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Of course she will," said her mother. "Oh, and one last thing, sweetheart. From the path you shouldn't stray, or you could get lost someday." "She won't listen," said her brother. "Yes, I will," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Of course she will," said her mother. "Goodbye, dear. Give your grandmother a big hug for me." "Yes, Mother," said Little Red Riding Hood. Then she headed out the door, down the path, and into the forest. There was so much to see in the woods: a sleeping owl, a giant mushroom, an amazing spider web. Little Red Riding Hood remembered what her mother had said. "When you leave, please go straight to your grandmother's, and don't be late." "But," thought Little Red Riding Hood, "Mother surely would want me to enjoy the forest." So she stopped and looked around. Just then, a dark shape stepped out from behind the trees. It was a wolf, and he was smiling, a charming smile. "Why, hello, little girl," said the wolf. "Isn't it a lovely day?" Little Red Riding Hood remembered what her mother had said. "Something else before you go. Only talk to those you know." "But," thought Little Red Riding Hood, "he seems like such a friendly wolf. Mother surely wouldn't want me to be rude." "Hello, Mr. Wolf," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Yes, it is a lovely day." "You seem to be such a delicious, by which I mean delightful, child." The wolf's smile grew even bigger. "What might your name be?" Everyone calls me Little Red Riding Hood," said the girl. "A splendid name," said the wolf. "And where might you be headed, Little Red, if I may call you that?" "Oh, you may," said Little Red Riding Hood. "I'm bringing my grandmother this basket of treats. She lives on the other side of the forest." "How kind of you," said the wolf. "In fact, won't your grandmother like a lovely bouquet of wildflowers as well?" There are some just over that hill, down by the edge of the river. Red Riding Hood remembered what her mother said. From the path you shouldn't stray, or you could get lost someday. But, thought Little Red Riding Hood, Mother surely would want me to bring Grandmother some flowers. That's a wonderful idea, Mr. Wolf. I'll pick some right away. And she scampered into the woods. Goodbye, Little Red, the wolf called after her. I'm sure we'll meet again very soon. And then he whispered, by which I mean for lunch. The moment Red Riding Hood disappeared, the wolf dashed down the path towards the grandmother's cottage. He tapped lightly on the door. Grandmother, he said in his best little girl voice, it's me, Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red, really? How wonderful! Grandmother flung the door open. Wait, she said. You're not Red Riding Hood? Sadly, no, said the wolf, by which I mean goodbye. And he swallowed up the grandmother in one big gulp. And now, said the wolf, patting his stomach, I'll wait for dessert. Sometime later, Red Riding Hood came out of the woods. She was dirty and rumpled, and there were burrs in her hair. It was much harder to find the path again than I thought it would be, she said. She was surprised to find her grandmother's door wide open. She stepped inside. Grandmother, are you home? Yes, dear, came a scratchy voice from the bedroom. But I'm in bed. I'm afraid I have a nasty cold. Red Riding Hood followed the voice into the bedroom. The curtains were closed and it was very dark. Grandmother was wearing a floppy nightcap and the blankets were pulled up past her nose. Red Riding Hood moved toward the bed. Grandmother's eyes looked very odd. Why, Grandmother, she said, what big eyes you have. The better to see you with, my dear. Come closer so I can give you a hug. Red Riding Hood took another step closer and saw two odd triangles poking up under the nightcap. And Grandmother, what big ears you have. The better to hear you with, my dear. Can you come a bit closer still? Just then, the blanket slipped from the grandmother's face, revealing 2 rows of very sharp teeth. But, Grandmother, said Riding Hood, what big teeth you have! The better to eat you with, roared the wolf, leaping out of the grandmother's bed. Red Riding Hood screamed, ah! She ran from the bedroom, through the main room, and into the kitchen, slamming doors behind her. She clambered into a cabinet and yanked the door shut. Oh, why didn't I listen to Mother, she thought. If I hadn't stopped in the woods, I wouldn't have met the wolf. If I hadn't talked to the wolf, I wouldn't have left the path. If I hadn't have left the path, I wouldn't have been late to Grandmother's. Then none of this would have happened. In the kitchen, she could hear the wolf calling her name. Where are you, Little Red? He said. There's no need to hide, by which I mean I'm going to find you and eat you, no matter what. Just then, something crashed. A voice yelled. Dishes smashed. The sounds got louder and louder and wilder and wilder. And then everything was quiet. Little Red Riding Hood peeked out from the cabinet. There stood her brother, his axe in one hand. He was helping Grandma step out of the wolf. Thank you, dear, said Grandma. It was very dark in there. The brother looked at Little Red Riding Hood. I knew you wouldn't listen. Little Red Riding Hood scrambled out of the cabinet and gave her brother a big, big hug. "You were right," she said, "but I will from now on." Then Red Riding Hood, her brother, and their grandmother all sat down together to eat the treats from the basket.